of Management Studies, IGNOU presents an audiobook on the course MMPC-001 Management Functions and Organizational Processes for MBA program. Presenting Block 2 Managerial Processes 1 Unit-5 Organizing Part-1.
After studying this unit, you should be able to understand the concept of organizing, the meaning of work, different approaches to organizing and analyzing work, methods to improve and measure the work process, the time and motion study, the concept of ergonomics, and the impact of information technology on work design. Organizing refers to the formal grouping of people and activities to facilitate achievement of the firm's objectives. Issues for discussion here are the types of organization structure, degree of centralization, levels of management, span of control, delegation of authority, unity of command, line and staff relationship, and staffing. Structure refers to the specific manner in which people are grouped. An organization can group its people on the basis of the various functions, such as production, personnel, finance, marketing, geographical territories, or around specific products or product lines such as detergents, toiletries, basic chemicals, agro products, as in case of Hindustan Lever Limited. The concept of matrix organization is a recent evolution and combines the functional and product organization. This type of organization is especially useful in case of projects which require both specialists as well as functional experts to execute a project within a specified time frame. Another type of organization is by the type of customers served. A company manufacturing and marketing computers has organized its sales department in two groups. One group sells to institutions such as offices, banks, schools, colleges, etc., while the other group sells to individuals. Many companies selling office equipment have organized separate marketing teams to cater to the private sector and the public sector because of the different cultures prevailing in them. Centralization refers to the point or level where all decision-making authority is concentrated. One-man enterprises such as a small bread and butter stores, vegetable vendor, a self-employed car mechanic are examples of complete centralization. As the enterprise grows, it becomes increasingly difficult for one person to manage alone, and he has to necessarily line up other people and give them authority to make some decisions. These decisions may be routine, programmable decisions, but complete centralization is no longer possible. The decision-making authority is now vested in more than one individual. This is decentralization. You require information to make a decision. It is possible that information may be generated at one place, but the decision is taken at another. A Bombay-based multinational involved in making and selling ball bearings has its manufacturing facility at Pune. Every evening, all information regarding the day's production, machine downtime, inventory position is sent to the head office via the linked computer facility, and all designs regarding change in production scheduling are made at the head office. The introduction of real-time information with the help of computers enables information generated at one place to be instantaneously transmitted thousands of miles away for making a decision. However, the real criterion for an organization having a centralized or decentralized structure is a reflection of the top management's thinking and philosophy. Closely related to the concept of centralization are the concepts of levels of management and span of control. Levels of management refers to the number of hierarchical levels under the control of a particular manager. Machine operator, foreman, floor manager, and production manager represent the levels of management in a typical production department under the director. The machine operator reports to the foreman reports to the floor manager, who in turn reports to the production manager, who is accountable to the director. The number of machine operators who directly report to the foreman represents his span of control. There is a great deal of controversy regarding the ideal number of people that a manager can effectively control or the ideal span of control. Many management thinkers are of the view that 3 to 7 is the ideal range. In practice, this may actually vary from one individual manager to another. At each level of management, there is a reporting relationship between the manager and the workers. The fewer the number of people that a worker has to report to, the less will be the problem of conflict in instructions and greater the feeling of responsibility for results. Similarly, the clearer the line of authority from the manager to the workers, the better the decision making and communication. The staff functionary reports directly to the top management and is not a part of the chain of command. A company may draw up any number of ambitious plans, but if it does not have the right kind of people, it can never succeed in implementing these plans. One of the biggest challenges which a manager faces is matching the right people with the right jobs. The process of staffing starts with defining the job to be done and the necessary qualifications, skills, and experiences required to do it. The next step is to search for the persons with the desired background. The search may involve a number of complex steps such as advertising the job through newspapers and specialized magazines, screening the applications received in response to the advertisement, conducting a selection process which may include a variety of techniques such as written test, group discussion, personal interview, etc. Before making the final selection, it is important to be sure that the candidate fits in well with the other people and the culture of the organization. Having found the right candidate, it is equally important that you are able to retain him. Among other things, motivation and leadership provided by the top management of organization also plays an important role. As you have seen, planning specifies the future course of direction of an organization. The organizing process follows the planning process. While planning specifies what will be achieved when, organizing specifies who will achieve what and how it will be achieved. To understand the organizing process involving the people and jobs in an organization, let us discuss a situation in a bank. Suppose you happen to be a teller, person who sits behind the service window in a bank. Your job requires transacting deposits, withdrawals, cashing the checks. Also, you may have to secure the approval of bank manager before you could cash a check for a person who is not a regular customer of your bank. Here, the bank manager's orders or directives will define how much authority you have to do things on your own. Besides, your work may also be supervised by your immediate superior officer. Hence, organizing involves identification of specific jobs, grouping of jobs of similar nature, number of jobs to be included in a specific group, and deciding how many people a manager can effectively oversee. An integrated network of people, their jobs, and their working relationships ultimately constitutes the structure of the organization. Therefore, the organizing skills can be broadly spelled out as ability to analyze and describe various organizational jobs, ability to select, train, and induct people in jobs, ability to draw working links, that is, define authority and span of control amongst people, and ability to change these working links whenever there are major changes in the environment or technology or strategy of the organization, etc. Another example may make it clear to you as to how the manager utilizes his organizing skills when major changes take place in the environment or technology or strategy. Suppose you happen to be a doctor in a village where you are in charge of organizing a hospital for catering to routine and non-routine or emergency facilities. You know that more facilities are available in city hospitals, such as provision of regular ambulance service, wide range of medicines and services of doctors and nurses, etc. At the time of dealing with an emergency case, you should rush to the city hospital. You have to organize yourself and your co-workers to assess how crucial this responsibility becomes when you have limited resources available with you, yet you want to achieve the best you can. The concept of organizing and analyzing work. The goal accomplishment of an organization requires work to be done in many different areas and highly specialized knowledge and experience. Hence, the work is divided among people, work units such as divisions, departments, and groups. Organizing work refers how to arrange matters so that people can work in concert to get the work done, division of work between people and groups, the work done by managers at different levels, and coordinating the work of people and groups to make possible to realize the goal of the organization. It includes issues like number 1. Organization charts. Organization chart is a form of line diagram. It indicates the arrangement of work units, the delegation of work, that is the delegation of responsibility, and work units in relation to each other. Number 2. Division of work. The work is divided among people and work units such as divisions, departments, or groups. The head of each work unit is in charge for the work done by the unit as well as for the work done by him or her. Number 3. Organizing the work done, that is, responsibility carried at different levels. Number 4. Maintaining relationships between people at different levels. And number 5. Coordinating work between people, etc. Different approaches to organizing and analyzing work. Number 1. The ancient approach. The concept of organizing work was there even in ancient times. For instance, the ancient Egyptians built their pyramids, the ancient Chinese built the Great Wall of China, the Mesopotamians used to irrigate their land and wall their cities, and the Romans built their roads, aqueducts, and Hadrian's Wall. All these man-made construction required large amounts of human effort and therefore organizing, that is planning, control, and coordination. The Chinese philosopher Mencius wrote about the concept and the advantages of the division of labor. Records reveal that the ancient Greeks understood the advantages of and practiced uniform work methods. They also employed work songs to develop a rhythm in order to achieve a smooth, less fatiguing tempo and to improve productivity. The division of labor was also recognized by Plato. He wrote in The Public, and I quote, "A man whose work is confined to such limited tasks must necessarily excel at it." Unquote. However, work itself was viewed by the ancient Greeks and the Romans as demeaning and humiliating. Those who could afford to do so were treated as employed slaves. With the fall of the Roman Empire, development was reduced, slavery being replaced by feudalism. In pre-Reformation Christian Europe, work was also seen as a burden. In this period, the mechanical clock was invented by Heinrich von Witsch in Paris in 1370, and Gutenberg's printing press was set up. The former permitted accurate work measurement and the latter the ability to communicate by the printed word. Indeed, Gutenberg's inspired creative thinking can be viewed as an early example of method study. However, with the Reformation, the Protestant work ethic emerged based on Luther's glorification of work theory. Calvinism brought further consolidation to this principle, and with it the virtues of frugality and the honorable acquisition of wealth. Work was viewed in society as respectable and idleness was awful. Number 2. The approach during the Industrial Revolution period. The momentum for Industrial Revolution was initiated in the 17th century. Agricultural methods had improved in Europe. Technical advances were also being made, most notably in textile manufacturing in the 18th century with the invention of Hargreaves' spinning jenny, Arkwright's water frame, and Compton's mule. The steam engine, first developed in 1698 by Thomas Savery, was harnessed by James Watt. These factors, technological developments, expanding trade markets, growing populations, created opportunities for merchants and entrepreneurs to invest in new factories. This was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. All these necessitated the improvement in work methods, quality, and productivity of workers. With the emergence of the factory system, Adam Smith, the father of economics, advocated making work efficient by means of specialization in the 18th century. He advocated dividing the work down into simple tasks. He provided 3 advantages of the division of labor. Number 1, the development of skills. Number 2, the saving of time. And number 3, the possibility of using specialized tools. After the War of Independence, there was a shortage of musket parts in the United States. Eli Whitney proposed the manufacturing of muskets by means of using interchangeable parts. Records from the Soho Bell Foundry in Chelsea around the same time as Whitney evince the use of production standards, cost control, work study, and incentives during the period. In 1832, Charles Babbage, an engineer, philosopher, and researcher, examined the division of labor in his book On the Economy of Machinery and Manufacturers. Babbage proposed as an advantage of the division of labor that the amount of skill needed to take on a specialized task was only the skill necessary to complete the task. He illustrated this concept by breaking down the manufacture of a pin into 7 elements. The important inference for employers was that they need to pay for the amount of skill necessary to complete each individual task. He advocated breaking down jobs into elements and costing each element. In this manner, these developments foreshadow the machine age, replacing traditional manual labor and improving productivity. Machines were located near sources of power, first water, later coal for steam. Larger concentration of machines were gathered in one place under one roof in the factories. Huge number of people came together to operate these machines and in the delivery of the outputs from the factories. As a result, the management functions of control, planning, and coordination were required with greater strength. At the turn of the century, the problem of layout and method was studied by Robert Owen. Owen, through experimentation at the new Lanark mills, was successful in raising the living conditions of his workers whilst reorganizing his mills on commercial principles. Robert Owen is endorsed with being the first to identify fatigue and the work environment as factors affecting the performance of factory workers. Number 3. The scientific management approach. Frederick W. Taylor, known as the father of scientific management and modern industrial engineering, by experimenting with different designs of shovel for use with different material from rice, coal to ore, he was able to design shovels that would permit the worker to shovel for the whole day. In doing so, he reduced the number of people shoveling at the Bethlehem Steel Works from 500 to 140. This work and his studies on the handling of pig iron greatly contributed to the analysis of work design and gave rise to method study. In 1909, he published the book for which he is best known, Principles of Scientific Management. Taylor's impact has been so great because he developed a concept of work design, work measurement, production control, and other functions, and that completely changed the nature of industry. Objectives of scientific management. The 4 objectives of management under scientific management are: Number 1. The development of a science for each element of a man's work to replace the older rule of thumb method. Number 2. The scientific selection, training and development of workers instead of allowing them to choose their own task and train themselves as best they could. Number 3. The development of a spirit of hearty cooperation between workers and management to ensure that work would be carried out in accordance with scientifically devised procedures. And number 4. The division of work between workers and the management in almost equal shares, each group taking over the work for which it is best fitted instead of the former condition in which responsibility largely placed with the workers. His framework for organization was clear delineation of authority, responsibility, separation of planning from operation, incentive schemes for workers, management by exception, and task specialization. Assumptions of scientific management. Two basic assumptions dominated Taylor's approach to the design of jobs. First assumption, management. Management is assumed to be more effective than labor at devising methods for executing the work and then at planning and organizing. By breaking the work down into simple elements, the training of workers is clearly simplified, workers are more easily substituted one for another, and supervision is made easier as it is apparent when workers are doing something that is not part of the specified task. Second assumption is workers. Human beings are rational economic beings. The prime goal is assumed to be monetary, and consequently reward systems which relate pay levels to output are seen as likely to result in maximum output. As such, humans will examine a situation and identify a course of action likely to maximize their self-interest and act accordingly. All that is required to maximize output from the organization's perspective is to hire the right people, train them properly, and construct an appropriate reward system. If the work can be paced, a worker can develop a natural rhythm and momentum. Principles of scientific management. 3 primary principles of scientific management directly or indirectly relating to work design are: Number 1. Taylor assumed that it is possible to gather all of the traditional knowledge which in the past has been possessed by the workmen and then classifying, tabulating and reducing this knowledge to rules, laws and formulas which are immensely helpful to the workmen in doing their daily work. In this way, the industrial engineer and the manager learns the best way for a job to be performed. Number 2. The work of every individual employee is fully planned out by the management at least one day in advance, describing in detail the task which he is to accomplish as well as the means to be used in doing the work. If management understands the process by which the work is done, it should be possible to plan out the work in the smallest detail before the employee even show up. In this way, the manager and engineer know exactly how the work will be accomplished. And number 3, the science which underlies each workman's act is so great and amounts to so much that the workman who is best suited to actually do the work is incapable, either through lack of education or through insufficient mental capacity of understanding this science. If management understands the best, most efficient way for a job to be accomplished, and if this is planned out in advance, no mental contribution is necessary from the worker. The scientific management approach was exceedingly successful in the first half of the 20th century. Constraints of scientific management. Although scientific management was unquestionably effective for more than 50 years, gradually it is losing ground because of many reasons. First, production and service jobs are no longer simple. Creating uncomplicated jobs was easy at the beginning of the 20th century because the products and the manufacturing processes were elementary. However, this is not the case today. Even unskilled factory jobs today require reading computer screens, working with numerical tools, or using and making custom products and services. Second, allied with this increase in job complexity, the technology employed in both manufacturing and the service sector has also increased in complexity. The jobs of today also are changing more rapidly than in the past, and so also the technology. If the technology is changing daily, so are those rules. By the time management understands the technology and how it should be used, the technology has changed. Finally, products and services are changing at an even more rapid rate. If we want to compete in the global marketplace, speed has become a necessity. The fourth approach to organizing and analyzing work is Fordism. In the early 20th century, Henry Ford dramatically established the concept of relative surplus value by doing what at the time was considered impossible. He paid workers 4 or 5 times the going rate, actually the bare minimum that could be screwed from the bosses, yet still made a huge profit. By vastly increasing the production of relative surplus value through the use of the assembly line, coupled with F.W. Taylor's scientific management of the work process, he was able to vastly improve the productivity of his plants. Ford brought into existence the concept of mass worker, whereas before the capitalist had relied largely on skilled workers to manage the production process, the mass worker was a new type. The fifth approach is the human relations approach. The human relations approach arose almost as a direct result of the harshness imposed by supervisors who excessively used scientific management principles. An outgrowth of the famous Hawthorne studies conducted during 1924 to 1933, the human relations approach de-emphasized the technical components of a job and concerned itself with the impact of employee social and psychological needs on productivity. Originally, the goals of the Hawthorne investigators were to identify elements of the work environment which fostered productivity. Surprisingly, the investigators discovered that the greatest impact on productivity was that of the social interaction patterns of the workers rather than environmental conditions like lighting. The significance of the findings to management are: Number 1. Workers thought and acted not as individuals but as a group. Number 2. Workers would sacrifice their self-interest in the fact of group pressure. Number 3. Money is not the sole motivator. This prompted Mayo to comment, and I quote, "Factory managers are going to someday realize that workers are not governed primarily by economic activities." Unquote. Number 4. Supervisors have significant influence on output. Number 5. Mayo's recommendations reflected these findings and were: Number 1. Managers must ignore the informal organization but ensure its norms are in harmony with organizational goals. Number 2. Man is basically motivated by social needs, not economic ones. Number 3. In order to influence the behavior of individuals, managers must focus on the work group rather than individuals. And number 4. Effective supervisors are those who satisfy subordinates' social needs. These recommendations led to principles advocating the design of jobs which facilitate social need gratification by the workers, including the use of non-authoritarian leadership styles by supervisors and the fostering of effective work groups. Number 6. The socio-technical systems approach. The socio-technical systems approach to work redesign tasks in a manner that jointly optimizes the social and technical efficiency of work. Beginning with studies on the introduction of new coal mining technologies in 1949, the socio-technical systems approach to work design focused on small, self-regulating work groups. Later, it was found that such work arrangements could operate effectively only in an environment in which bureaucracy was limited. Today's trends towards lean and flat organizations, work teams, and an empowered workforce are logical extensions of the socio-technical philosophy of work design. And the last approach is modern approaches. Modern concepts are not entirely disparate to scientific management and classical organization theory, but are evolved from earlier views and represents modifications based on research and experience. In order to counter the weaknesses of the earlier approaches discussed so far, the behavioral science approach was adopted. Industrial psychologists, although at first arrived at similar conclusions to the human relations movement, based on their search, concentrated on motivation of individuals. and industrial sociologists looked at the behavior of formal and informal groups at work. In the period between 1951 and 1971, managers moderated their logical approach to such things as job design and considered such alternatives as participation, job redesign, job enlargement, and job enrichment. By the mid-1960s and 70s in Britain, there was much puzzlement as to which theory to follow and much conflicting evidence from researchers. Goldthorpe in 1969, for example, was to find that some employees, although they disliked the work which involved repetitive tasks in their Coventry car assembly plant, would put up with them for the money rather than move to more interesting jobs and lower wages in plants nearby. Experiments at Philips at Eindhoven demonstrated that although output initially mounted after enlarging the jobs in radio assembly, workers were unhappy with the new jobs and responsibilities and many left. White in 1973 also found that the motivation of managers to work depended very much on two factors: the type of job that was being performed and age of the job holder. These findings show the boundaries of approaches such as those proposed by Herzberg and others that advocate a single best way and draw attention to the danger of viewing behavioral science as a provider of packaged solutions. In nutshell, advocates of each approach point the finger at the incompetence of the application of other approaches. Accordingly, it becomes clear that no single panacea exists for work organization. As advocated by the contingency theorist, it depends upon several contingent variables. Work improvement and measurement. Work improvement. The term work improvement is very wide and includes the study of work and simplification and standardization of methods, equipments, and working conditions. It is otherwise known as method study or method engineering. Work improvement may be defined as scientific techniques of studying and analyzing the conditions influencing the quantity and quality of work done by the workers. According to W. Haynes and J.D. Massey, and I quote, "All of the physical aspects of operations can be considered as a part of the work improvement study: layout of workplace, material handling, design of equipment, working conditions including lighting, color, air conditioning, power, and so forth." Unquote. Work improvement not only improves work efficiency but also improves human comfort and satisfaction. This is also known as human engineering or ergonomics. Work measurement. Work measurement deals with assessing the time content of a job performed by an operator to determine the proper time to be allowed and the efforts required for the efficient performance of a job. R.M. Curie has defined work measurement as, and I quote, "application of techniques designed to establish the time for a qualified worker to carry out a specified job at a defined level of performance." Unquote. Work measurement is popularly known as time study, which is a major constituent of the work study. Its advantages are: number 1, work measurement determines the normal time for a job and thereby serves as a basis of a sound wage incentive system. Number 2, the standard time determined by work measurement helps in labor cost control. Number 3, work measurement provides the relevant data for efficient work planning and control. Number 4, work measurement facilitates effective manning of plant and equipment. And number 5, work measurement technique can be useful in reducing the time and the cost involved in the proposed production orders. Work measurement versus work improvement. Work measurement is the study and analysis of time taken in the performance of a specific task. Work improvement denotes the study of methods and techniques of production for increasing efficiency. These two concepts are interlinked with each other because both of these aim to increasing productivity. Efficient work improvement is a precondition of work measurement. Work improvement uses the techniques of motion study, process analysis, plant layout, and materials handling, whereas work measurement involves time study, work sampling, and synthetic standards. Work improvement is done to suggest the best method of doing the job, whereas work measurement helps in fixing fair day's work, laying down wage incentive plans, and production planning and control.
You were listening to the audiobook by the School of Management Studies, IGNOU, for MBA program. Course code MMPC-001, Management Functions and Organisational Processes. Course Coordinator, Professor Srilata, School of Management Studies, IGNOU. Voice over by Harpreet Kaur. Edited by Tarannum Jahan. Program assisted by Jagbandhu Jana. Program produced by Manoj Kumar Singh. This program was brought to you by Electronic Media Production Center of Indira Gandhi National Open University.